everyone, welcome back to the Flyin podcast. I'm here tonight with my co-host Sam. We're chatting on kind of a busy week for FC Cincinnati. In some sense, there wasn't a game, but a lot of announcements, a lot of moving parts. But we're just excited to be here and chat again about, the team we love and to kind of recap in some ways what a unbelievable year, that we've been fortunate to watch compared to the first 3 years in the MLS, Sam.
Yeah. Excited to kind of talk about a lot of stuff. Like you said, there weren't games. So, usually you're thinking, man, what do these guys have to talk about? Well, this was actually a newsworthy week, up and down from awards to player injuries to suspensions to, et cetera. Right. Looking forward to covering it all.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on. I'm really excited, at least for this first part here. We're going to chat a little bit about the award season beginning in the MLS. So we'll chat a little bit about that. We'll get into some kind of, I would say, a little bit of a review from the New York Red Bulls and kind of some things that rolled over in the past week, from that game, including Miazga's whole fiasco. A little bit of the injury recaps and kind of see where everyone's at from last week in practice. And then as we get towards the end of the episode, we're going to do a little bit more of a playoff review of some of the games that have been going on. And also kind of give our takes really as to what we can change in the playoff formats and moving forward, kind of what we want to see. So I'm really excited to kind of get through this here. We're also going to touch a little bit about the international break as some of our players are going into that. But Sam, let's talk about award seasons. This past week we had some big announcements. So first off, really in the same night, we had the goal of the year and the save of the year both announced for FC Cincinnati players. I'm going to let you choose which one you want to chat on first.
Yeah, we'll start with goal of the year first. I mean, as soon as we saw it, let's be honest, we thought it was a no-brainer for goal of the year. Lucho, right? So it had to be the goal of the year. Yeah, I thought it was really funny too. I was, reading up on anything and actually saw that MLS.com says that he dazzled the TQL Stadium crowd with a Lionel Messi-esque finish. So
Whoa.
we put a video side by side, to Acosta and Messi. So, now the MLS is stealing ideas from us. So, I guess we're going somewhere, right? But I think this will definitely be the first of two end of the season honors for Lucho for sure.
Yeah, preview to come for that one for sure. I instantly stood up during this goal and said, "Oh my gosh, what did I just watch?" Unbelievable live. He takes on 3 or 4 defenders. As Sam was kind of referencing, the Messi goal was very similar, going from, the midfield strike all the way in and taking the ball. Just unbelievable effort by Lucho to score that. And to really kind of cap, at least in my opinion, the MVP. That was his MVP moment. And that's what Sam was alluding to there. So goal of the year, just unbelievable. Maybe it's against Charlotte with not a great defense, but I mean, no one's going to know that. No one, who did Messi score against in that goal? You can't even tell
No
me.
idea.
So
Yeah, no
exactly,
idea.
exactly my point. Exactly my point. So on the flip side of things, when I go over to the save of the year in the MLS, Roman Salentano, earlier on in the year, Sam, we were at this game and FC Cincinnati has a lead at the very end and the Crew have a dangerous position in the corner. They have a free kick that they end up whipping into the box. There was an initial header and then it gets to the back post and it's pretty much a wide open header. And me and you are on that side right in front of the goal watching this unfold. And we're like, it's going to happen to us. It's a Cincinnati moment. Here we go. And Roman gets big, and really just saves a point blank header, which I, in the moment, just thought was just an unbelievable effort by him. And ends up being the save of the year. So both of them, for those not familiar, were voted kind of by fans. At the very end of the year, there's a couple different selections for it. And our FCC supporters really showed out in the voting. Awesome work by all FCC Nation just for voting and getting out there and showing that we're worthy of that. For at least the goal of the year, Sam, I don't know if you realize this, the goal of the year actually was not even the goal of the week in the week that it happened.
I
So the
remember
St.
that.
Louis
Yeah.
fans actually had voted their player as the goal of the week, but the FC Cincinnati fans kind of ended up, salvaging this and getting it to be goal of the year, which we kind of predicted would potentially happen. And here we are. So it's just kind of ironic that that happened.
Yeah, I really do think that's really funny. Not even goal of the week, but turns out to be goal of the year. Interesting. But as far as the save from Roman, like just wow. The more like you said, we got to see it live and in person, and then the highlights, the slow motions, just it's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. 93rd minute of a rivalry game, right? On your home turf in TQL Stadium, an absolutely legendary save in FC Cincinnati history without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure. And you make a good point because, like, if you think about how many people have ever seen in a single MLS season the goal of the season and the save of the season at home in the same
Yeah, in
season,
the same stadium.
in the same
Yeah.
stadium. Like, it could have been an away goal or an away save, but we saw both of them at home in front of our unbelievable fans. So credit to, these guys for doing their thing. We're doing our thing by showing up to these games and supporting them. But as we move on, another award that was just announced today, Sam, we kind of lucked out on the timing of this one, but I kind of have a kind of a conspiracy theory on this one here. But Matt Miazga is your defender of the year in the MLS. So
Yes, sir.
Miazga, unbelievable year. This is a player that I had been calling for FC Cincinnati to have in our defense for what now 2 or 3 years, Sam, before he came to us. I said, he is the glue guy. We need this guy to basically shore up our defense. And here he is winning defender of the year. So very, very proud of Matt with all the drama and everything going on. Don't overlook the fact that he had an unbelievable season. The stats are one aspect of things, but the players and everyone that is around the sport knows the importance of a center back who's vocal, who can lead the team, and really solidify things in the back. And that's what Matt did this year.
Yeah, absolutely. To your credit, I think he needed us just as much. You had mentioned that him coming over really helped us and helped us solidify our back line. Well, he's kind of riding the bench at Chelsea over there a little bit, had not been selected in the U.S. men's national team. And he was kind of, up in the air of like, what's going to go on with this guy's career? Cincinnati's like, hey, we'll take you. Like, you still could be a crucial piece here in the MLS. You still have some, life to give over here. Personally, he probably left the MLS a little too early. But my goodness, has he contributed to FC Cincinnati? I mean, you were talking about stats. The guy in his first full season back in the MLS, he's 28 years old, right? Anchored the league's fifth best defense, only allowing 39 goals in all comps. I mean, that's pretty solid right there.
Yeah, great stat on that. Just in seeing his immediate impact, in basically this past year, we've only lost like 6 games, I think I saw, when he was on the field. He started in 10 different clean sheets, tied for fourth most among, players in the MLS that were outfield players, meaning like a non-keeper position. But we lost only 4 games since his arrival. I don't think that one's actually right. I think it was 6. I had seen 6. There was another one that it had said 4, but I think it was actually 6. But just, yeah, unbelievable effort by him this year, and really since he's been here. The one thing that I said, kind of the conspiracy thing, Sam, I tweeted this out today. If you look at the video of when they announced to Matt in practice that he had won Defender of the Year, context clues on this, guys. You really have to look in the background. Bupenza is in the video, and he's there and training. Baji is there and running around with him as well. So this tells me that this was announced to the team probably about 2 weeks ago, if not earlier in the week last week. And I know that because right now Bupenza is in Gabon, I believe, for his international break, playing for his national team. So it clearly wasn't done today. It was announced today, but it kind of begs the question, Sam, that do we know all the awards already? Are these already out there and they're just kind of staggering their release dates on it? So kind of to what we had touched on a little bit earlier, I wonder if, Lucho is already the MVP and he knows it, and maybe he's going to use that going forward. And maybe Matt kind of played with a different energy too, knowing that, hey, I'm the defender of the year. And maybe he got treated a little bit differently because of it. I don't know. That's a potential, but that's kind of what I had seen just based off context clues and looking at that video.
Yeah, I love the theory. Let's run with it. Because I think you're absolutely right on the video part. It definitely was filmed, prior. And it's definitely not, today or yesterday, whatever. I think that's a good point on that. As far as Lucho being named MVP at the same time, I don't know if they would do that during practice. I feel like they'd give Miazga his limelight for that practice. So that would be my only
Well, I
edit
think
to
like
your
maybe they've already
your
announced it to
conspiracy
him.
there.
Maybe not in the same practice, but like it's already been told to him is what I'm getting at. And does that affect their play on the field, for some of these games, knowing that they already have that in the bag?
Considering, I don't know. I don't know if the, because it could be announced in between now and our next playoff game. Like we don't
It's true.
know, right? So is it going to affect his play, or is it going to be announced beforehand? I think it should be announced here in the next. It should be announced before they play.
No
I feel
one
like that
seems to
should happen.
know. Like nationally, like,
Yeah.
you look around and there's no set time. Like there was a deadline on when the awards like had to be like nominated by a certain time, but there's no timeline on like when they're gonna like come out with this at all. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of interesting. But the other side of things, MVP is go ahead, Sam.
Well, I was gonna say, so on Matt Miazga, I was looking. Obviously they came out with the percentages, and I thought it was interesting that a guy who is so, I feel like he's the guy who's hated by the media and hated by the opposing fans, yet the media gives him the highest percentage of votes out of all the defenders.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. I think the players had voted Tim Parker of St. Louis. I think he had 19% and Miazga had like 16% from the clubs or from the players. So yeah, I thought the media boosting Miazga a lot was definitely interesting.
Yeah, that was, kind of the thing on the voting, at least for awards, goes into team vote, meaning like the GMs, the coaches, player vote, media vote, and the different kind of sections for that and how it's broken down. It does get very interesting. You're right. And is that, at least on the player side of things, because of the ultimate competitor side of Miazga, um, hey, no one likes this, but that's okay. That's one of our cheers. We're still gonna secure these awards, and no one can say anything different. We were the best team this year. So I
Yep.
think it's just fun for me to see that. But that's a really good point, though. Looking at the breakdown, I was just gonna say on the flip side, though, I kind of give you my theory for the MVP part. Do you think that right now, Bradley Carnell, the coach of St. Louis, is the favorite for coach of the year? Although Pat Noonan, we can say all we want. I think he deserves it more than him. All these other St. Louis fans might say differently. If St. Louis's coach knows he's coach of the year before the playoffs start, and then they fail miserably out of the playoffs, how does that affect things? It's just kind of fascinating to look at the timing.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that either. Different different things could be, kind of, I guess, told through the grapevine, prior to these different games. But once again, unless you're behind the scenes and you're them,
Yeah.
then you don't really know. Um, I do think it would be absolutely hilarious for us FC Cincinnati fans to see us kind of clean the board or sweep the board there over St. Louis. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It would be really cool, and what an honor for Pat if that happens. They're both coaches are going to say they're going to prepare the same no matter what. They're just professionals, in that sense, but it is just kind of funny. So as we alluded to, Sam, are you ready to move on? We can move on to the Miazga fiasco from last
Yep.
week. So Tuesday of last week, this kind of, I don't even know how to describe this situation that comes out about after the New York Red Bulls game. It was a tweet by the PSRA, which is a union as a part of the officials, a separate group from pro referees. They're seemingly, associated with each other. Comes out with this tweet that there was an unnamed player who had basically forced his way into the locker room of the officials, had to be forcibly removed by security. And then subsequent tweets come out with more information, just that, hey, it appears it is Matt, like everyone was kind of unfortunately thinking. But thanks to some of our local media guys, Pat Brennan, I think, was the first one to break it, that he wasn't forcibly removed by security. It was our own comms department. So does this timing kind of impact, number one, the fact that we're trying to appeal, getting him to play in the next match, which ultimately we attempted to do, but we're unsuccessful. So looks like Matt's out for the next game. Again, ironic situation considering he just was named Defender of the Year. It would have been even funnier if it was like, Sam, he is like the humanitarian of the year, or he's the good guy of the year, and then he like gets a suspension in the playoffs. I just think
That
that would
would
be
have been hilarious.
that would have been so funny, like, because this has already been voting on, like they just have to like put it out now. It was just a very interesting situation that kind of unfolded over the last several days of last week, to be honest, but it just seems all overblown by one side and kind of a lie in some ways, even though they're going to go through the proper channels through the MLS to see what actually happened. But
yeah, that's what I was going to touch on. Is it feels very overblown. I mean, I'm kind of torn on the situation. Obviously, I'm for, as far as like, hey, once the referees are down the tunnel, like don't try and do anything. Like, they're just humans just as much as we are, as much as they do tend to make a lot of mistakes.
right,
I feel like we're still just not getting all the details that we need.
right,
I feel like it's a lot of just vague stuff. And regarding that tweet, I thought the tweet makes it seem a lot more violent and threatening than it probably was.
right.
Like, it sounded like he was just in there causing chaos, which I'm assuming it was a similar tone of the one he had on the field with the referee. It was like, hey, I just want an explanation.
I
Like,
want clarification.
yeah, I want a clarification on what happened and why you gave me a yellow during, the end of the 90 minutes there and for the penalty. Like, what, just give me some clarification so that way I can go on and go back to my locker room. Now, is that the right way to go about it? Probably not.
Right,
However, after a game, you're going to be a little bit heated because I don't know if he knew, but he had to have known, like, hey, I'm probably suspended for the next game. And
yeah,
I need some explanation, or I need to cool my head a little bit
right.
going into that game, or going into the appeal process.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate competitor comes out and he should never have put himself in this situation if that truly occurs. But we don't know the location of our locker room compared to the refs. We don't know if he talked to him on the way back to the locker room, or were they in the hallway together? I mean, those are all unknowns. But from this tweet, which, like, if you look at it now and there's been further clarification, what can we really say is like truly real about this situation? You can't. I mean, because
The
they
only
already
thing we
lied
have
about one part.
the only thing we have from the location is the fact that the picture, like, from that tweet, is like it's taken outside, like, the locker room for
Right.
the referees, which you don't even know if that's their stadium or
Just a
when
general
it was.
photo,
Like,
or
yeah, it's literally just a general photo. And so you're bound to think, like, holy crap, Miazga was literally just trying to get into their room and, like, banging on the door type. Like, that's what you immediately go to, because that's what the picture kind of insinuates.
yeah, it's unfortunate in the timing. And is there foul play, based on when all this stuff comes out? Like, there's a lot of stuff like that we can only speculate on. And the factual part of it right now is he's out next match. So that's the biggest thing that I'd like to press on. the fact now, that is one thing, but kind of this rumor mill of will he be suspended more? All of the drama behind that is, again, speculative, but would be super unfortunate because of, again, he's defender of the year. We need him for the last several games. So Matt, again, why put yourself in these positions? If you truly were asking for clarification, like, I get you, man. I get it. I've been there, but it's not the time. You can't be doing that then. So that's my
Yeah.
opinion on that.
Yeah.
So I guess from that scenario, again, like, would he be running around when he wins Defender of the Year and super cheery and happy, like at practice? Like, yeah, he's gonna be happy about it. But again, furthers my point that I don't think this video, was necessarily from today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think we put the theory out there. We see I think the Twitter world has already gotten a good glimpse at it, and people are going, oh, he could be right about this one. Let's
right.
see. Let's see. So would love to get more response on that in the coming days.
Yeah. I think we can move on at least a little bit to a little bit other playoff news reviews. As we alluded to a little bit earlier on, St. Louis, the top seed on the Western side, was the only upset in this first round. The best of three that carried over, 3 weeks. Unbelievable that, again, this is scheduled this way. But, St. Louis is the only team that gets knocked out by Sporting Kansas City. Actually, it was pretty impressive. They look pretty good, Sam. That was the big kind of headline for me, the part that I missed in my bracket. And then, Philly now without Kai Wagner, with his 3-game suspension for his comments on the field. Now, again, with some other comments coming out that potentially Bobby Wood had instigated some things. It is fascinating, again, that all this is happening during the playoffs, but things are heightened. There's more importance behind each of these scenarios. But hey, we're on to the next round. That's what's important to me. But again, talking about these playoffs in the new settings that we have this year, Sam, my question I pose to you is kind of what's our fix to the playoffs if there is one, or like you had mentioned before, do we scrap it all together? Which I thought your tweet and even from the last podcast was a really thought-provoking one. And, do we change the setup of the schedule again at the end of the year? We'll touch on it more, but I want to hear about that now on your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, I think, if we were to sit down and say, all right, how do we fix the playoffs? Truly, how I would fix it, once again, is having no playoffs whatsoever. However, that's not the question. The question is, how do you fix the playoffs as it is right now, right? And so, first thing I would do is take out the wild card, take out the best of 3 series, and make everything single elimination, straight to penalties for every single game, even the final. All right.
For
So
a
that
tie,
way,
you go to
to the
PKs
point.
yeah.
Yeah, for a tie, you go straight to PKs, no extra time, no
Okay.
lollygagging, just straight to PKs. So that way the action is compact and every moment matters, right? Is what
Yeah.
the playoffs should be. I'm a little weary on how many teams, because originally I was like, hey, just give me 5 playoff spots for both sides, for East
Right.
and West. However, I'm adjusting that to 7 of the best teams from the East and the West, and then the number 1 seed gets a first round bye. That's what I'm going with.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's similar to what it was before. Number 1 seeds used to get a first round bye. You kind of incentivize that. I think you still kind of go off of the way that you're looking at it. I still think you give the top team overall, home field advantage throughout. So that's the
Forgot about
scenario
advantage.
I would set up as well. Similar to you, I had a possible fix, based on the current playoff setting, which for me would be similar to your single elimination over 2 weeks instead of, 3 weeks. Over the first 3 rounds, though, just so we have more games closer together. If you're really going to stick with a Western Conference, Eastern Conference thing, like that shouldn't be a problem. Maybe travel is different if you go through a 1 through 16 bracket style, though, and having teams travel a little bit further. Again, more of an NCAA style. Hey, 1 plays 16 and so on from there. and they could be teams from wherever in the country, which just makes it tougher for travel. With the final game being a 2-match series, a home and away. And I was debating if I would want straight PKs or more of an aggregate scoring because it just adds to the effect of scoring on the road. I'm kind of up in
Mhm.
the air on that one. But as I kind of alluded to in prior podcasts, Sam, I think your ultimate solution that the MLS is going to go to is having a regular season and pushing Leagues Cup as your Champions League. Again, in Europe, Champions League is this big tournament over teams all over, and putting Leagues Cup at the very end of the year over a month period that decides, do you move on to a bigger Club World Cup, and making that the tournament style. And that way teams are playing other teams from other countries, and making that, more of your playoff style thing if you still want to keep that because we're Americans. But that's the way that I would go to that because of all of these people that are coming in now. You're getting all of these huge players. I mean, Luis Suarez is now rumored to be going to Inter Miami, and more of this is going to continue to happen. So I think they're going to go more to a global situation in that sense of scheduling in the season.
You have to. If you want to become a top 5 league in the world, you have to become more global. You can't become more American. That's not the way that soccer goes. Like,
Yeah.
it's not our sport.
We don't
If
change
you
the
want to,
rules.
exactly, if you want to increase your fan base as the MLS, you have to resort to what works globally, not what works from your standpoint or what you think works when it doesn't and never has. So I like your point as far as making the Champions League more a part of more relevant, right? Because
Yeah.
right now it's like, oh, great, these teams
Right.
have secured a spot for the Champions League. What does that actually like? What
What
does that
does that
actually
mean?
mean? Like, that's
What
fantastic,
does that
but what
mean?
does that actually mean? Exactly. So I think that's a great point, and I think that would bring more people to and more eyes on the MLS if you do make the Champions League something that maybe it's more throughout the season, right? More maybe Leagues Cup is that Champions League, right? Where it's
Right.
more throughout the season and at the end of the year,
Right.
like that's the big title at the end of the year. Or to your point, maybe you make the CONCACAF Champions League at the end of the year. I think you could go with either one. But you got to choose one or the other.
One or
I
the
can't
other.
do, yeah, I can't do Leagues Cup and Open Cup and Champion. Like, that is way too much on top of a regular season. Like,
We're seeing
that
it
is way
now.
too much.
And I
Yeah.
know Europe has their FA Cups and, their League Cups and stuff like that, which is just more domestic type trophies, but it just gets too crowded, especially in the fact that we're kind of behind the 8 ball in international play as it is. So if our players are becoming better and they're traveling around the world to play on these club teams, and then they're having to come back and play for the US or vice versa, they play in the US and now they have to go play with the US in other countries. I mean, it just becomes super messy on travel schedules, congestion,
Yeah.
fatigue. I think, FC Cincinnati has qualified for this Champions Cup, which is similar to the Champions League because of our position, this year. We start in February. So legitimately, if we make it to, MLS Cup and win, December 9th, that's like 2 months before they play their first game in this competition. And then you start 50 games over again. So we don't have a lot of time to figure this out if we're going to keep it this way. And I haven't heard any new announcements. So it seems like they're sticking with this. But like we are saying, like, we have to adapt or you're going to get caught behind and everyone's going to laugh at us as to, hey, like, I don't know what this situation is, but we're just going to adapt it. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. To update on our playoff bracket that we had at the beginning of the playoffs, I just want to give a little update on that.
Yeah.
So after the first round, Ryan and I, like he had said prior, are tied for second, and we have Zach in first right now as far as predictions
Oh,
because you
wow.
and I had thrown some shade at the Columbus Crew fans, and said that they were going to lose in the first round to Atlanta. Unfortunately, Zach, probably just withheld the spite, and he's got almost a perfect first round. Obviously, St. Louis being the big one that has been knocked out, but he only has one loss, and we have two.
Okay. We'll see if it continues that we're out. I think my end game was us versus LAFC at home, which would be kind of a fun one
Yes.
to watch.
Yeah,
Um,
Zach was us against Dynamo, and then I had Seattle against us. So we all have three different answers. So it should be very interesting.
Stay tuned for who wins on that part of things in the bracket challenge of the Flying Lion. Sam, I got a trivia question for you this week.
Yeah, hit me.
So related to the award season here, which current or former FC Cincinnati players or coaches have ever been nominated for the end of the year awards? And so this is all of the, Golden Boot. We're talking about Defender of the Year or, those similar type awards outside of the Best 11 award.
This is MLS, right?
MLS. Yep.
Okay. For MLS, I was in between three or four current former FC players or coaches. I'm gonna go with four on this one just to be safe, and
Okay.
hopefully I get the three that are in there. But yeah, I'm gonna go with four. First one, I'm gonna go with Dominic Kinnear, because he was with, I think he was with the Galaxy, I believe, and a couple other teams. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Probably was with somebody else prior to that, or San Jose Earthquakes. That's who he's
Okay.
with. And then I'm gonna go with Lucho Acosta, Alice Powell, and Ray Gaddis. Those are my four.
All right. We'll stay tuned at the end. We'll give you the answer to the trivia question. We're going to go to break here and then we'll be right back.
So Agility is a technology-driven soccer training facility. So we offer 6 facets of training. That would be Tech Touch with ball launchers that work on your first touch, the TSZ, which is the ESA equipment and working on decision making. We also have a circuit. Circuit training would be taking the ESA equipment to the next level. It's kind of like a soccer obstacle course. Then we offer neuroscience training with our reflection tools, working on processing things a little bit faster, hand-eye coordination and such. We offer skills classes, which is your typical core skills training. Lots of people still enjoy that, so we work on a lot of attacking 1v1 skills. And then we also offer athlete development. So our athletes come here and they work on speed, agility, quickness, explosive movements, really just learning how to move and function a little bit better as an athlete.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here chatting some recaps of the past week for FC Cincinnati, awards, international break, some fun playoff recaps. But now we're going to get into the injuries. Sam, my favorite part being a medical guy here, but not so good because
I'd
it's
say
for our guys.
not so fun for me, but yeah.
I wanted to just kind of briefly update because we have a few right now. A big news from last week, though, was Nick Hagelin traveled all the way over to Great Britain and had surgery. He had his hamstring repaired. Again, I can kind of give a little bit of a background on a hamstring repair.
Yeah,
Generally, that's about a 3-month recovery, until you're cleared to play. So he just had it, last week. He's kind of aiming for a February return right now. If you saw the post, he is on crutches, I believe, and he probably has that ACL brace or that knee brace, which he'll be in for a little bit, just so there's not as much stress to the hamstring for a little while. Just a little side note there. I wanted to sprinkle in some medical knowledge for everyone. Yeah, so Nick will be out for a while, unfortunately. Some other question marks, though, I was just going to say was, at least we are seeing one player back, Steven Jimenez. So our young 16-year-old player who broke his leg in the summer is now back. He's training with the team. So that's a good thing. But Sam, do you want to touch on some of the other guys?
Yeah. So off of Hagelin, I wanted to wish him the best, obviously, on the recovery.
Mm.
And I thought that was interesting that last game, I know a lot of people had wanted him to pull the sword. So maybe he pulls the
Ooh.
sword next week, because now he's had surgery. However, I don't know how delicate that needs to be or the movement or anything like that, but I think that would be pretty cool.
It's too soon for pulling things, Sam. He just pulled his hamstring. He can't pull the sword now.
Well, hey, that's upper body. I'm not a medical guy, right? So I hopefully that would be. I'm just saying that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But as far as everybody else, though, you're looking at about three other guys right now that we're waiting to hear back from. We got Powell, Obi, and then Baji. Starting with Powell, I think he should be back and healthy by the Philly game. It just looks like he took a little knock in that game against Red Bulls, but he should be back and ready to go
Oh,
without a doubt.
Powell didn't play in the series. He didn't play in either one.
Oh shoot, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. Powell wasn't back. He was just about to be back, but
Yeah,
he
he was
was like
about
a
to
week
play the
away.
second game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think another 2 more weeks is really going to work wonders for him. It sounds like he's been doing more individual work. Same with Baji, which is kind of promising that it was rumored that he had a muscular
yeah, because they've
injury.
been on the side. Yeah,
hmm
that's
But
right.
Obi is the more concerning one. So Wobodo hasn't really been seen doing much of anything. And he's kind of the more important piece, in my opinion, that, it sounds like it was a foot injury, but he had to come out in the second half, which like Obi never comes out of a game. So that kind of concerns me a little bit. But again, we have another 2 weeks. If by next week he's practicing, that will be very promising. Or at least like around the facility. Like we just need Obi back.
Yeah, I mean, listening to what I think Laurel had said last week, the report was he got stepped on during that Red Bulls game, and so I'm not too sure, what comes of that, but we absolutely will need him healthy to secure that back line for Philly, especially with Miazga already being out, with Hagelin being out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you really look at the fact that Obi was there a little bit before Miazga showed up and we were a good team, and then Miazga came in, it just added to it. So if you're missing both for that game, oof, that worries me. We obviously have Kubo to kind of fill, but who's your backups to them then? We had so much good depth, and that's a good thing, but we need our star players there in the biggest of moments. So good vibes towards these guys and their healing process coming
With
out of this
with
next 2 weeks.
Yeah, with Baji's injury, it being just muscular, I think he should be ready to go for Philly. And I think he'll be crucial for sure, adding, once again, that depth at striker. It'll be interesting to see if Pat goes with a similar lineup. Having Baji start and then Bupenza come in.
We'll
We've
see.
seen that work multiple times, right, this season. So having Baji available to do so would be kind of good.
Sam, the key to this is that Bupenza shows back up. He's coming off an international break.
Also would be good as well.
That's been our kryptonite lately, is like players not returning from international duty and players getting hurt on international duty. Arias, Moreno, so hopefully
if that happens, I'm blaming it on the MLS. The fact that they have an international break in the middle of the season, tempting our players to stay in their home countries. Come on, that's not okay.
Do you want to touch on that first before we go to our cards, or which order do you want to do then? I think it's a good transition.
Now we can go to the cards. We've talked about it enough.
Okay. I have a little bit of a preview just for some of the players that are called in to their teams. But Sam, what is your card of the week though?
Yeah, my card of the week isn't really soccer related. It kind of is, but it isn't. My card of the week is the fact that CVG Airport just now got a skyline. Like, come on. Like, I was doing my research, and CVG Airport's first commercial flight was in 1947. The first skyline that ever opened was in 1949. You're telling me we have waited 74 years for this partnership to eat delicious skyline either before our flight or after our flight in between flights. This is absolutely ridiculous. And on top of that, they're opening an exclusive breakfast menu only for CVG. Like, come on, I might have to go eat breakfast just at CVG and then leave. Like, that's what
Yeah.
may just have to happen.
Really tempts you to want to go and try that. And, you know, I mean, if we talk about Skyline being like, it's not just drunk food, but like breakfast food now too. Ooh, that would get dangerous.
Breakfast burrito, I saw that on the menu. Oh, hey now.
Yeah, I like that card though, because yeah, I don't know why it hasn't been around before. But
yeah,
Sam, I'll tell you
it's
one
a
thing. I'm
partnership
very
that should have
happy.
happened.
Oh, 100%. I am very happy though that it is in the stadium. You know, the fact that we have that good partnership with them and that they have the Conies, you know, in the stadium, awesome.
Absolutely. Taking and elevating the spices and the flights to a whole nother level. Hey-oh.
I like that one. I like that. I got to give you my card of the week being the Inter Miami versus NYCFC charity match for this, you know, Messi winning his 8th Ballon d'Or or the best player in the world. You know, let's just create this game for these two teams that are knocked out of the playoffs. And so we get more viewers to watch on Apple TV because we haven't hit our numbers because Messi didn't make the playoffs. It's just ridiculous. Why do they make all these exceptions for this situation? You know, like in all these other years past, I've wanted to see my team after the year. Well, maybe not. Maybe in the years where they've been so bad, like it's like, all right, we'll put that one to bed. But yeah, I don't know. It is kind of bizarre. It was just weird to see another like MLS game getting all the attention outside of the playoffs at the same time. It was just really weird.
Yeah, I think, you know, calling it a charity match is exactly what it was. It was two teams that didn't make the playoffs, and that was the charity in the whole game.
And they still lost.
And
Messi's team still lost, by the way.
I'd also like to add to the fact that it was a charity match and the fact that Messi didn't deserve the Ballon d'Or, and that, you know, they gave it to him as a charity case. So I'm going to add that on.
Is that your
well.
honorable yellow right there?
Yeah, well, I'll probably get an honorable yellow from the comments, but yeah, I think that it just goes to show that they're really going to squeeze the crap out of Messi here in the next, what, we've got another year of this or 2 years
Another
of this?
year or two, but was Erling Haaland your choice then?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, unbelievable season by him. I agree. I would love to see somebody different because of the year they had and that they won 3 trophies and he was the reason why. I mean, that's huge. Even though Messi wins the World Cup, wins, I think, the regular season for the French league, right? I believe.
How many months was the Premier League?
How many months was the Premier League?
Yeah, was it August to like
August to May?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the World Cup is 4 weeks.
That's true. And we're talking Champions League and we're talking all the other competitions too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Holland can't help that his team, Holland's team didn't even make the World Cup. And, you know, he was a part of the qualifying process, but Argentina versus Norway, it's like completely different ball game with their international teams. But we've seen Zlatan win with Sweden and they were like nobody, you know? So
yeah,
that's Holland's next step for me is to elevate his national team. But that's for a separate conversation.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good time to kind of bring up the international side of things. So again, great honors for some of the FCC players. Aaron Bupenza gets called up again for Gabon. Kind of really cool for him, though. This is the first game of the qualifying for the next World Cup for 2026. It would be the first time ever that they would qualify for the World Cup if they were to do so. They host Kenya this coming Thursday on the 16th, and then they face Burundi on the 19th. So very interesting to see that, hey, they have a game on the 19th and we play on the 25th. So he's got some time to get back, hopefully healthy. But we need Bupenza because we saw last game how vital he is.
Yeah, based off of his last international appearance, I mean, he scored, right? So last October 17th, he got one of his 5 career goals for Gabon, which is pretty cool. So hopefully he replicates that in one of those 2 games or both, you know. And then another player that we saw go on international duty was Mascara.
Can I give you a brief pause on this? I didn't know. Did
Yeah.
you see on Gabon, did Bouanga get called up from LAFC? I'll have to go back and look at that, but it'd be interesting to see if like Bupenza went, but Bouanga didn't get called up or like, chose not to go because he's in the middle of the playoffs. I just wonder
Yeah.
if there was a different prideful thing with that. So we'll have to go and look at that and let you guys know. But yeah, let's hear about Mascara.
Bouanga did.
Oh, he did. He accepted as well.
Yeah, he accepted as well.
Okay. Well, good to know that it's not
Yeah.
just our player.
Yeah. So on Mascara though, so he gets, his second consecutive call up. They actually face Brazil on Thursday, the 16th, and then they face Paraguay. So actually 2 pretty big matchups for Colombia. Obviously last outing he made his first senior debut. So hopefully he'll get a start or he'll get, an appearance, something. Come on, give me
Can
something.
you imagine him playing like Vinicius, like Casemiro, like any of these big time Brazilian players? Like, and then it's like, there's Yerson. That's our guy right there. Like, that would be so cool. I think it's in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. Or I think they host Brazil, but I might have to watch that game just to see. And then, a part of Colombia, Arias got called up, but FCC denied him from going to play with Colombia because of what happened the last time and that he's just coming back
Yeah, good,
into full
good
fitness.
call on that one.
Yeah. Based on his history, and you never know what happens in the international games. And then our last player was Moreno, who's playing for Venezuela. He's playing Ecuador on the 16th and then traveling to face Peru actually on the 21st. So as the table stands right now, for our guys, Venezuela, Sam, is ranked 4th in this bracket for the World Cup qualifying, and Colombia is 5th. So very interesting from the last World Cup cycle. Venezuela was dead last, and Colombia had qualified, or did not qualify, I think. I think they did not qualify. So both teams right now are kind of in that upper echelon of those teams there to qualify for 2026. Would be really cool if we still have these guys again to see them, play in the U.S. Obviously, that's kind of far away from now. And it is fascinating to me that they have qualifying games, and it's 2023 for 2026. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, what these guys do. Hopefully they get a new energy during the international break. That's always what you hope for coming out of international duty as far as for your club team, is that they find rejuvenated energy, or, they really do something great and bring the energy back. For Moreno, I think this is his 3rd consecutive month being called up. So he's kind of finding his groove within that Venezuelan team, and it really shows, right? As far as the outcomes of their prior matches,
It helped
I'm
for
really excited to see.
I was just gonna say, like, it's helped for the national team, but I just feel like his play has kind of fallen off, unfortunately, in the playoffs. He's been the guy that's been like passing the ball away and making like just bonehead mistakes. And especially if Obi's out in this next game, like we can't afford for that to happen, especially in that scenario, because we don't have this guy that can track people down and, make these unbelievable tackles. So hopefully this kind of shores up his play a little bit. And the fact that, hey, like you kind of point out, Sam, if we have a 3-week break, at least some of our guys are still playing in competitive matches. It's one thing to practice in your, at least around your team and whatnot, but you're not really playing other people. You're not really like competing. And the competing side of thing, if you have a break from that for a while, it can be interesting to get back into that if there's a long break between that and at the end of your season. So yeah, I think it's good that a lot of our players have time to rest and to heal. because we need that. We have a lot of guys banged up because of this brutal schedule, but I want the competitiveness to stay there, especially, we're missing it from Matt in this game, but 3 guys are playing in World Cup qualifiers. Those are huge, huge matches that kind of simulate, playoff settings in some sense. So I'm starting to see a little bit of benefit to at least them competing. We'll see how many minutes they actually play, though.
Yeah, I once again, I'm just happy that they're playing minutes. And if they get to play, right,
Yeah.
like you said. But yeah, I think a new change, a new kind of player, like playing against different players. I think that's a good point there in training, just to get a feel from different guys. So that way it's not just your same guys that you've been practicing against for the whole year.
Right.
But yes, I'm not going to give any credit to this international break more than that.
Yeah, fair. I wanted to do the trivia answer if you're ready for it. I think it's time to, we'll kind of close it out here. But again, the question was, which current or former FC Cincinnati players or coaches have ever been nominated for the end of year awards in the MLS? And, that excludes the best 11 award for being the best 11 player or position player or whatever. And Sam had, I believe, put in 4 as his answer. He had Gaddis, Powell. Was Powell one of them?
Yep.
Was the other one Dom Kinnear, I believe?
Yep.
And then there was one last one that you
Lucho.
mentioned. You say Lucho, right? So kind of interesting. I'll have to go through the total numbers here. You can kind of tally it up as we go. There's more than what you think, Sam. There's more than what you think. So, Defender of the Year. Are you ready for this? 2015, Kendall Waston, our former center back, was second. And then 2017, he was third in the running for Defender of the Year. 2015, Waston was second. Matt Miazga was fourth in the voting for Defender of the Year in 2015. So for Red Bulls, he made like this appearance there, for Defender of the Year. So those are 2 players there, right? Coach of the Year. Sam, you nailed this one. Dom Kinnear, 2005 Coach of the Year for San Jose, for a Supporter Shield Champions team. So very similar to FC so far, right? Sam, San Jose didn't make it to the MLS Cup that year, but guess who did? So New England played LA Galaxy, and it was Pat Noonan against Chris Albright in the finals. It was wild. I had to look at this again. I'm like, no way. So yeah,
that's
Dom
awesome.
Kinnear's team won Supporter Shield, but Pat Noonan played Chris Albright in that MLS Cup finals, and Chris Albright's LA Galaxy ended up winning. So that's very hilarious. Fascinating from that. Then we got Goalkeeper of the Year. So Roman Celentano last year was 4th overall in Goalkeeper of the Year. This year, he ends up being 2nd. So I count last year's one more. So that's another one there. And then this is fascinating as well. Prior to the Golden Ball for most goals in a season, the MLS had a scoring champion, which included 2 points for a goal and 1 point for an assist. And they tallied that up as total points. In 2004, Pat Noonan was the co-MLS scoring champion.
There we go.
I was like, that is so wild. I had no idea. So that was his sophomore year, his 2nd year in the league. He was the co-champion of that, which nowadays kind of translates to the most goals in a season. So kind of fascinating with that. And then the last award here was the Rookie of the Year. And it was Austin Berry, who is our strength and conditioning coach. He won that in 2012 with the Chicago Fire. So a lot of people on our team are former players that have won awards, through the MLS. So it's pretty cool to see.
Would you tally what, 7, 8?
Waston, Miazga, Kinnear, Roman, Pat, and Austin. So I think 6 there. Yeah.
Did you add Chris in there, or was that just a side note?
The Chris part was just the side
was...
note for the MLS Cup. Yeah.
Dang.
So pretty cool.
Right.
We have a lot of
cool. Yeah.
pretty talented, and I guess honored players, through the MLS and even early on in the MLS's history too. Now for best 11, I didn't realize this, Sam. Lucho made best 11 in 2018. So he is one of our, I think our only player, last year, him and I think Vasquez got best 11 as well for the league. Yeah. And then I believe Chris Albright one time made best 11, and he's our only other connection for FC Cincinnati. Back in, I think it was 2005 or 2004 for right back, he was a best 11 player. But just fascinating that, again, these guys are, highly awarded throughout MLS history.
Yeah, I think they know what they're doing.
So as we say that, with all of this happening, maybe by next week we'll have the answer for Coach of the Year, MLS MVP of the Year. We're excited to see, potentially 2 more awards for us, but I think that is a good cap for this episode. Next time we're gonna review a little bit of the Philly game. We have a date now, Sam. November 25th, 8 p.m. We're going to be playing at home against Philly, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Once again, at TQL Stadium, our fortress. It's going to be definitely going loud. Cincy till the end. Let's roll.
Cincy till the end. You heard it here. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks again for tuning in.